Hello and welcome to Mac Video Magic Live. And I'm going to play this time the right way. I'm Michael Kinney from Mac Video Magic. Thanks for being here. So do you struggle with audio for video? I know a lot of people do. I get a lot of comments and questions regarding my audio and how I do it. So I decided to put together this little stream to share with you my audio setup, sort of my thinking about audio for video, which is a different thing than audio, say, for podcasting, audio for video. So I'll walk you through sort of some concepts that I think are behind good audio for video. I'll show you some of the tools I use, and it's very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. I'll show you my setup. It's not that complicated. In fact, it's really not the gear that makes good audio, but we'll talk about that later. We'll also talk about a debate between different camps of show the mic, don't show the mic. And we'll talk about that because I know that could be a contentious issue for some folks when it comes to audio for video. So we're going to talk about that, and hopefully you'll get some value out of this, and it'll help you with your audio setups, because audio is so vital for video particularly. There's a saying in video production that audio is half the picture, or sometimes 80% of the picture. Audio is so important in video. And you've probably heard this before. People will excuse so-so video quality, but they will not excuse bad audio quality. They'll be gone. Especially if your video is, you just can't listen to it. It's such a tragedy. People will just leave, and all the work you put into that video, the information, is going to be wasted. So we want to have good audio. And that's what we're going to talk about, audio for video. But before we jump into that, let's say hello to the good folks in the chat. Dave's Vintage Apple. Woo, I like that. Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Dave. Thank you for being here. Carolyn K. I've already learned so much from this channel. Thanks so much. From Prescott Bath Boutique. Excellent. I hope you're using my information to create great video for whatever you want to do, maybe your business or your hobby, what have you. All right, let's see. Who else is here? Ann Ricci. I just stumbled here. Pick yourself up. Hope you didn't trip. I do YouTube videos and always looking for help. Excellent. Well, hopefully I can help you. I think you've come to the right place. I don't know. Other folks in the chat will let you know if you have. Good morning, Natalia. Good morning. Hey, from Lakeland, Florida. Kevin Hawthorne, a regular. Thanks for being here, Kevin, again. From Germany, Woodfriend. Excellent. Woodfriend, is that woodworking stuff? Let me know in the chat. Rhode Island. Ann Ricci's from Rhode Island. Excellent. Dr. Durant's Sanctum. Hey, Michael, yes, I use mics and still get loud distortion. Oh, been working on it for a while. Your videos have been a great help. Looking forward to this one. Good. Hopefully what I show you today, Dr. Durant, will help you with your distortion problems. Dinky Shop is back again. Good morning. All right. Excellent. Okay. So before we jump into show and tell with some gear. Oh, some more folks are dropping in. Ableton Live producer. Hi, Michael and gang from Ireland. Excellent. Thanks for being here from Ireland. Before we jump into the show and tell, I want to just go through some concepts around good audio. Now, let me just preface this by saying, I am not an audio expert. I am not an audio guru. I worked with some very excellent audio engineers and recordists through my career of 25 years working in television. And I still don't know half of what they do. Audio is such a very mysterious art. It's kind of more art than technical. And I watched for years these technicians record, and being a host on camera and have them record me and tell me to stop or do something different. And I wouldn't know why. But I've learned over the years, being a videographer, and then having to, create my own content and record things and do documentaries and other stuff. I started to learn audio and the different things that really make or break audio. And it's not may not be what you think. Let's see. Some more chat. I get a lot from your channel at MacMost. Hey, excellent. I like MacMost too. That's one of my favorite channels. Lots of great stuff there. I need walk around audio. Okay, we can talk about that. So there are different situations when it comes to audio. We'll talk about the different situations. Okay, let me just jump into my high-tech whiteboard. If you've been here before, you know what it is. It's text edit. Does the job. Okay, so good audio for video. So the first sort of thing you got to think about is your environment. Okay, so environment is important for audio. Obviously, you don't want a noisy environment. It makes it difficult, not impossible. I worked in television, out in the field, doing, walk and talks out on the street and stuff like that, with lots of traffic noise and stuff. But there were certain techniques that we used to minimize that noise, because you can't turn off the traffic. So we use different techniques to do that, and to mitigate the noise enough so it wasn't distracting. That's the key. A lot of times you can't get rid of the noise totally, but to reduce it enough so that it's not distracting, and that whatever you're saying, your content cuts through. So environment is important. Now, another thing about environment is you may have heard the concept of reverb, right? Reverberation. So let me just show you something first. First show and tell. Let me go back to the main camera here. So first show and tell. You can see behind me here, those tiles there. Those are mounted all around this room. Here's one of them right here. This is very inexpensive, off of Amazon. And so these are basically to absorb and deflect sound waves. This is not soundproofing. That's a whole different thing. Very more advanced, more expensive. So what these do, and I have them mounted around, is they cut down on the echoey sound, which is reverberation. And what that is sound bouncing around the room. So my studio right now is my kid's old nursery. And it is literally a box, like almost a perfect box. And without the sound treatment, it was crazy. You talk and it'd be bouncing. It's like you're in a garbage can. And that's just not pleasant. You might ask yourself, why is that a bad thing? Why is reverb or echo a bad thing? It's not a bad thing at a certain level, right? Every environment has some reflection and reverb. In fact, if it didn't, it would seem kind of like you're in a padded cell or something. It would be kind of disconcerting. So there is a little bit of reflection, but you don't want too much because it becomes distracted. You ever watch a video on YouTube and the person's using the camera mic and the camera's like 10 feet away from them? And you can hear them, but you hear the bouncing of the sound in the environment. You might still be able to hear them, but it's distracting. And it does another thing. It kind of gives you a mental cue not to pay attention to the person. I kind of explain it this way. If we were having a conversation right now, which we are, and I was standing 12 feet away from you, let me simulate that for you. This is not 10 feet. But I'm back here talking to you right now. We're having an intimate conversation from a distance. How does that make you feel? How does that sound? Are you engaged? As opposed to me being a little closer and a little more present, right? That's kind of what you would expect in a conversation. You don't have conversations screaming across the room in most cases if you can help it. So having that echo around gives you that same, at least to me, that same sense of you're yelling at me from a distance. So we want to reduce those reflections. So that goes to the environment. And so in this room, I could even go another step and have carpeting. I don't have carpeting in this room. It's just a hardwood floor. But if I really wanted to go the full, 9 yards, I would put carpeting down to beat down the reflections even more. So think about that for an environment. And if you don't have, you don't have tiles or you can't get tiles, you can use stuff like carpeting. You can tack up blankets on the walls, anything that's going to break up the straight reflections of the sound. So you can excuse me, you can improvise a little bit. I know people who had to do podcasts on the road, and they would basically just make a setup where they'd take the bed sheet and put it over like their microphone. They tent it over themselves in the microphone in their hotel room and worked great. It just reduced all the bouncing. So environment, something to think about. Hey. Shamba, super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for making this stream. I remember making a request about this only a few days ago. So appreciate the prompt response. Yes, Shamba, I remember. I remember your comment. And I was thinking about, I should do something on audio. And then I saw your comment and went, I think I will do something on audio. So there you go. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yes, so environment is important. And a lot of times you can't control your environment that much, like I said, if you're out on the street. But if you can, do some of those things. One test you can do, if you want to know how much reflection is in a room, real simple. Walk into the center of the room. And clap. If you hear a lot of echo from your clapping, you know there's a lot of reflection in that room. If you treat it and you clap and you don't hear as much reflection, you know you've beaten down some of those reflections. So that's helpful. So environment's it's important, and control it as much as you can. All right, let's jump over to the chat because folks are talking over here. Room sounds. The room sounds great, Michael. Thank you. A work in progress. This room was, because it is so almost perfectly square, it was a nightmare for reflections. My old office down the hall was a little more irregular, it was larger. So it didn't have as bad a reflection issue, but here is like square, hard walls. So I had to put up some of these tiles to help. And also because when I speak, I project, my voice carries, it bounces, it tends to bounce off things, and even bounce off monitors and other things that are metal. So I can't totally get rid of the reflection problem, but I think I've beaten it down a bit. Good enough. Brad Griffith, greetings, a bit late from St. Paul, Minnesota. Yeah, it's all right, Brad. This is not class. you can come in anytime you want to. We're not taking attendance. Okay, let's jump to the second aspect. So we talked about environment, which is important. All right, the next factor is microphone placement. Microphone placement. This one really stymies people. And this goes to the debate we'll talk about later about mic in the shot, mic out of the shot. So mic placement is important. And the general rule is you want the microphone as close as possible to the sound source, but not too close, because there's the opposite, right? So here I am talking on this microphone. I am a fist away, which is the general rule, because if I'm here like this, it's just too much. And then if I started talking loudly, it would start distorting. That's too close. So generally 4 fingers away, a fist away. But if I'm too far away, then it's not picking me up really, and you can hear all of the room and the different sounds. So mic placement is very important. Now, let me talk about my setup. And if you've seen my tutorials, here I am doing this live stream, right? And I'm talking to you. You can see the microphone. Microphone's right here. And that's fine. I use this setup for live streams and for podcasting. But if you watch my tutorials, you'll notice there's no microphone in the shot. So let me show you. I'm going to show you what I use, and I'll tell you why I use what I use. So let me get back over to the main here. More show and tell. I had to take this apart just to show you. It's okay. It wasn't a big teardown. All right, so this, oops, is what I use. Let me arrange it how it's like in. There we go, on the desk. So let me do the trick here. There it is. So that is the Rode VideoMic NTG. Okay, that doesn't really matter. What matters is it's a shotgun mic, meaning it's a very directional microphone. It's meant to be on a camera and to capture sound from a distance. It's very focused. It catches sound from pretty much in front of it. So that is one of the reasons why I use it. And you can see here the stand it's mounted on. This is the Elgato low profile mic arm, and it sits on the desk, and the microphone is low to the desk and aimed up at me, at my mouth, as close as possible. So that is what I use for my tutorials. I put that just out of shot, and that's why I use a shotgun mic. I used to use, let me put this down without breaking it. Let me show you my first microphone. Gosh, I feel like I'm doing like Amazon shopping network. This is the Rode. This is another Rode microphone. This is the NT-USB. This was my first microphone for YouTube videos. And so this is a condenser microphone. Now, if you don't know the difference between a condenser microphone, so this is a condenser microphone. This is a dynamic microphone. Let me talk to you quickly about the difference. The condenser microphone has a device for capturing sound, a diaphragm that requires electricity, requires power, and it sits there. It's very sensitive, so it picks up sound from like very sensitively. This thing could pick up the sound in the room. If there's something across the room, the great thing about it is it picks up a lot more of the frequencies of your voice, which is great. You get a nice rich sound from it, but it captures so much sound. So noise becomes a problem if you have a noisy environment. Even things like across the room, if you have a little fan or something going or whatever, it'll pick it up. But a great microphone for doing voiceovers and things like that. But picks up a lot of sound from all around, right? Because that's the design of the microphone. Not so great from a distance, right? So if I needed something from a distance because I wanted the microphone out of shot, kind of more of a traditional television setup. So that's why I went with the shotgun mic, directional, because it's sort of designed for that. And so I just keep it just out of shot and works great. I think it works great. So that's why I use that setup. And I use the low profile arm. You see some people have the shotgun aimed from above, which is fine if this is all you're doing, right? If I'm just talking to camera, having it above me is great. But when I'm doing my tutorials, I'm looking at a screen because I'm doing the tutorial, right? I'm working the software. So a mic up here is not going to capture my voice very well versus one that's coming from below. So that's why I use the low profile arm. And that's it. I connect the microphone directly to the camera because it's a camera mic using just the little plug, stereo plug. There you go. It's a USB. You can connect that microphone via USB to the computer, but I don't because I don't want to deal with delay. Sometimes you get mic delay, so I like connecting directly to the camera, and then the camera goes HDMI out into the computer. And that's my audio setup for my tutorials. Works really good. Simple, great sound quality. The microphone is a pretty good mic. It's fairly, relatively speaking, inexpensive compared to some other shotgun mics you can get, like Sennheisers and stuff like that are several $100s. But this one works just great. And this one has sort of a little sibling. I think it's the VideoMic Go 2. It's a smaller version. Doesn't have as many features, but the sound quality is great. still a camera mic. I could still use that for this as well. So that's what I use for my tutorials. That's the setup. So it's not terribly complex, right? But what's important is the placement of the microphone. Placement of the microphone is very important. So that's why I have that configuration. You see, a lot of times people will trying to do audio and they don't know the goal of what they're trying to do, right? They'll watch, many YouTube tutorials and other or YouTube videos and reviews, and they'll buy microphones and all kinds of stuff, and they'll still be frustrated because they don't understand what is your goal with your audio. What is the situation you're in, and what are you trying to do? So I'm doing tutorials. I need to concentrate on the screen. I do address the camera, but I also want the microphone out of shot. So what's the solution? Oh, shotgun mic, pick up sound from a distance. Okay. How do I mount it so I can get it as close to my mouth while not being in shot? Oh, Elgato low profile arm. There's your solution, right? So you have to think strategically when it comes to audio, what you're trying to do. Now you see some folks who will use what are called lavalier mics that just sort of attach here. I think DJI is the one that's everyone's using. And they work fine too, because they're stuck to you. And I don't have a DJI, but I do have. Is this it? Is that it, or is that it? I do have. Sorry, I don't mean to. Here we go. I have a Saramonic. It's another brand name. I just use it. So this is a microphone. You can see that's a microphone, and so it clips. Let me show you here with the microphone. And so you talk, and the microphone is there, and it picks up your voice. You don't have to worry about anything. You just go on and do your stuff. So if you're doing a lot of stuff where you're mobile and you're standing and walking around, you're not going to be close to the camera, so you can't really use a camera mic, then this kind of wireless type microphone is a good choice. I personally not a fan of it showing like this. That's just me. You can get sort of the little microphone lavaliers that you can plug into this, and then you can just sort of tuck them into your here or your tie or something like that. Problem with those though is rustling noises, right? You got to be careful if you have clothing, not rubbing the microphone. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't use them, because I don't want to be having to worry about how I'm moving while I'm concentrating on delivering the content. I like having a microphone that's just mounted. I don't have to worry about it. That's just me though. So so that's another choice. But placement, and this particular one here, I'll show you again. You place it around 6 to 8 inches below your mouth. Lots of choices. But again, what are you trying to do? What's your goal? If you're walking and talking a lot, then you're going to need one of those wireless mics, because it'd be too hard unless you have a boom operator with a microphone following you around. You're going to need one of those. So, but mic placement is important, right? You got to get the mic as close to the sound source, being your mouth, as much as possible. So let me talk about, I don't want to debate about mic in the shot, mic out of the shot. I should just justify why I use the setup for the tutorials with the mic out of the shot. And yet here I am with the mic in the shot for this, for the live stream. Here's my thinking. I come from television, and where you have multiple situations where you would have the mic not in the shot, and you would have the mic in the shot with a lavalier mic. And typically, when you're doing programming or content and you have the mic and you're showing it, basically it becomes almost like it's an informational program, like news. You see that, right? You see them with the microphone. If you're not showing the mic, it becomes more of almost like I'm not going to say fantasy, but more of like a drama, documentary type situation. My point is this, going around in circles, let me just explain. I don't like showing the mic, or I prefer to hide the mic in my tutorials because I want you, the viewer, to concentrate on the information and me, not my gear, not my microphone. Because we have a habit here on YouTube, we're watching videos of looking at people's stuff. Ooh, what's the microphone? What camera is that? What light is that? And that's fine in certain situations. But if I'm trying to impart some, knowledge from an instructional design point of view, I want to minimize as many distractions as possible so that you concentrate on the information. So that's why I hide the mic in my tutorials. Here I am in the live stream showing the microphone. Several reasons for that. One, this is a dynamic microphone. I showed you the condenser. So the dynamic is a different breed. It's a different way of it captures sounds. It has a capture device in it, but it's passive. It sits there. Where the condenser is electrified and it's like just waiting for you to make a sound and it'll pick it up. The dynamic is sitting there. And the only way it moves is through sound. So it's very passive. So I have to move the diaphragm in this with my voice. So consequently, this particular microphone, which is the Shure SM7B, is very insensitive, which is good and not bad, but it's good. Because one of the reasons why it's so good is because it doesn't pick up a lot of noise like that, like this microphone. This one is so passive. I mean, there can be, and there's noise. You don't hear it. I don't think you would hear it. I don't hear it. But, the neighbors next door are closing down their pool, so they got a pump going. I got an air conditioner going. All this stuff is happening. But this microphone is whatever. It's just sitting there. And it's only gonna move from the voice, the power of my voice right in front of it. So that's the beauty of this microphone. Consequently, I have to be close to it to get a good sound quality, to make it work, because it's so passive. Now, you've probably seen this before. Everyone's using it. And a lot of times you need because it's so passive, you need some extra boost. You need to boost the level so that people can actually hear it. So you've probably heard of something called a cloud lifter. It's a mic, I don't think called exciter, I think. Basically, it boosts the level of this microphone, makes it a little more sensitive going into the device. And I'll show this whole setup in a moment. But I just wanted to talk about the difference between a dynamic and a condenser microphone. So I show this this is one of the reasons why I show this in the shot, because I got to be close to it. The other reason why I show it is because of the convention of the format, meaning the convention that this is a live stream, and people show microphones in live streams all the time, right? And to me, a live stream is more akin to like a radio show than video in a way. So showing the microphone like this is not a big deal. It's not like, oh, what is that? Why is that microphone there? People just go, oh yeah, it's a live stream. Oh, it's a podcast, a video podcast. Yeah, there's the microphone. People expect it. So I have no problem, right? So when it comes to the debate, show mic, don't show mic, it's situational for me. It's situational for me. So that is that. I don't even know what I was talking about. I started going off on dynamic, condenser, but that's just the reasoning was why I don't show the mic in the tutorials and why I'm showing the mic here. All right, let's jump into the chat a little bit and see what else people are saying about anything. What did I do in television? Everything. I was everything. Pretty much everything, even an executive for a little bit of time. So I was a writer, producer, director, host, editor, videographer, series producer. Yeah, everything. Pretty much everything. Fun fact, Michael Jackson used the SM7B for his vocal mic. Yeah, for sure. This mic it's old. It's been around for a long time. I think since like the 70s. 60s or 70s, I believe. And this, a fun story about this microphone, it was that it was designed to be like, it was designed to be on like a boom mic for television. And they realized that actually it worked better like this. And so they used this in the news, and you probably never noticed it because they didn't have the foam sock on it. Anyway, little history of microphones. Okay, let's jump back to TextEdit as I ramble on here. I apologize for my scatteredness. All right, so the third thing to important audio. This is not just for video. This is for audio in general, and this is where people lose it. Proper levels. So this one is tricky because audio levels are tricky because it's hard to know what the level is, and the level changes depending on how you're speaking, right? Or so rule of thumb with proper levels. In general, it's better to have a lower level and have to maybe boost it up in editing than having too high of a level and distorting the audio. So if you don't know distorting the audio, you've probably had this happen where it's too loud and it sounds really disturbing, and that's digital distortion. There's no coming back from that. If you record digital distortion, you're stuck with it. I mean, there's some filters I've used to help sort of get rid of some of it, but it's gone. So you wanna record lower and boost it in your editing, because then you can it's easier to kind of boost it up a little bit than to try and come back from it being distorted. So how do you know what level? How do you know what level, Mike? It depends on what you're using to record your audio. So usually cameras and other devices that you're recording have little meters that move. And usually they'll have like the green meter. Let me see if I can show a meter here. Let me, no, it's hard to tell. You can't see from there, that's too far. But here, I'll go anyway. I'll go anyway and see if we can see it. All right, hold on. We're gonna jump to the overhead cam, folks. This is new. This is new. Ta-da! This is what I look at. There's the camera. That's you. This is me. Here's the setup. I might as well show you. So this is the setup for this. What I'm doing right now, we have the SM7B on another low profile arm, and it's plugged into, this is a Rodecaster Pro Classic Original. And if you can see over here, you can just barely see. You see these green lines bouncing up and down. This is the level meter. So in general, you want that to stay in the green to get as much green as possible. You can go a little bit into, it usually has green and then then it has yellow and then red. You don't want to be in red. You can kind of dip into yellow once in a while. It's okay. But you don't want to be in red. You want to have it mostly full green. So hopefully you can see that. So that is, yeah. And this is the setup. This is my setup, by the way, just to show you. Only you can see the acoustic tiles in the background over there. So yeah. So meters, levels. Levels very important. You want to set your levels. And again, levels are also related to placement, right? If I'm here, I'm a fist away, I don't need the level to be so high. But if I'm farther away, then I might need the level to be higher. So for example, when I'm doing my tutorials with the mic out of shot, I have to adjust the level a little higher than if the microphone was close to me. Not too much, but a little bit, so I can pick up the sound. But I don't want, again, turn it up too much. And particularly if you're doing video stuff. If you're doing a podcast, you're usually on the microphone. You're not moving really. You're kind of stationary. You can sort of hear what you're doing, and you can work with the microphone, and it's fine. But if you're doing video, a lot of times you're gesticulating and you're excited. You got to be careful, because your levels go up and down when you're talking. So you want to always do a little test level. I when I was freelancing and doing documentaries and having to do, I recorded a lot of interviews with people. And so I would set up the microphone and I would do a level test. I would ask them, can you just, tell me what you have for breakfast so I can set the level on my device. And inevitably, everyone's kind of like, well, I had bacon and eggs and some toast. And I know that's not how you're going to speak on the interview. So I have to tell them, no, like, give me the level of how, you're going to speak, right? So you have to be, and that's the same for you if you're a solo creator. You can't do a mic test and go, okay, yeah, so we're doing the mic test. And then you get on and you start going blah, 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 and you start yelling and your meters are going crazy and you're distorting. If you're going to do a mic check or a sound check, always do it at the level that you're going to speak at. Very important, because you don't want to go into the red. I hope that made sense. So levels are important. And levels are what lead to distortion. And distortion is bad, 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 bad. It's not pleasant for the viewer. Not pleasant for the viewer. All right, let's go to the chat and see if anybody has any questions around this. All right, Natalia. Natalia, being persistent about this. Yes. Yes, Natalia. Yes. Degrassi. Yes, I was on Degrassi. I was. For many, 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 many years. 16 seasons. As Coach Armstrong. Athletics coach, math teacher. Anyway, yeah, it was a fun ride. So if you're wondering, yes, I acknowledge it. I acknowledge it. But here I am on YouTube. Actually, back to what I used to do back in television. That's educational video. All right, let's see. I used NT-USB Rode mic. It's a good mic, I think. What do you think about it? You mean the one I showed? The NT-USB? This is an excellent microphone. The sound quality is excellent. It's really, really good. And for the price point, and they have a newer one. This is like from 2016, 2017. They have a newer version, the Plus, that allows you to use different processing and stuff on that, but I don't really use that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, it's a great sounding microphone. Like I said, it was my go-to mic when I started YouTube, but I just had the issues in this room and this environment and having, at the time, small children with noise issues. So I kind of swapped it out for something else. But it's a great microphone. It sounds really good. Good morning. Oh, yes. Masterclass. Thank you. Oh, I'll take it. Yes, thank you. It's a very simple setup. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. It doesn't need to be complicated, right? I think people get a little too complex. And if I just go back, you get too complicated. This is for, here's the main monitor. Here's my content monitor. And, here's I don't really touch this because it's set and I go. And, here's the keyboard and microphone, camera. Keep it simple, especially when you're live streaming. The simpler it is, the easier it is to troubleshoot when things inevitably go wrong. But even with audio, it doesn't have to be complex. There's so many microphones out there. And honestly, today, pretty much all microphones sound good, if not good enough, right? And I'll talk about this later because it's more than the gear. It's more than the gear. All right, let me see. Also, I'm often getting the red. Yeah. Now, you can sort of, depending on what you use to record your microphone, the device that you're using connected to your mic to connect it to your computer, there are some devices that have a built-in sort of distortion gate so that if you get too crazy, it beats it down. Like I know the Elgato, I have it here, this one here. This is the Wave, a little dusty sitting on the shelf. This is the Wave XLR from Elgato. So the microphone plugs in to this, and then this plugs into the computer. This has a built-in distortion gate, so you don't, and it's because it's built for, it's designed for gamers and live streamers who are, you know, excited while they're playing the game and scream. And, you know, that's brutal on the ears, so they built in a little distortion gate to stop it. But I don't use any of that stuff. I'm professionally trained broadcaster, so you learn how to modulate your voice, and we'll talk about that later. Working with microphones. Let's see what else we have in chat. Oh boy. I have an Audio Technica 2020 XLR, but kind of broke, so I'm using a Fifine audio interface, and works for me. Not a Roadmaster, but hey, what can I do? Yes. Sorry, I'm gonna go back again. What can I do to work in better sound with it? Yeah. Okay, so the Rodecaster Pro is not, you know, again, it's just part of the chain. It does, yes, it contributes to good quality sound in that, you know, hums and buzzes and things like that. It's, you know, it's good at that. It doesn't do, it's very clean. But that's it. It's not doing anything magic. So we'll talk about this later, but I was going to save it for later about working with microphones. And well, here, it's the fourth on the list, so I might as well just jump to it. I'll just jump to it, to text edit. And that is the fourth thing. This is what you're alluding to, is proper mic technique. So this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't know because you're not trained, right? I went to broadcasting school a long time ago. And we were trained in, I remember announcing class, first year. We had to use microphones with no pop filters on them at all. No pop screens, nothing. And you're like on the microphone like this. And we had to you learn how to modulate your voice to prevent things like popping P's and, you know, breathy H's and other things that will, you know, make noise in your recording. And I think a lot of people aren't, you know, they're not trained. Where do you go to train to do that? There's not many places unless you go to broadcasting school. But learning proper technique with a microphone and how to work with a microphone is important, especially if you're working closely like this. And one of the things I just showed you is how to modulate your P's, your B's and stuff like that. And to not pop. Like this has a pop screen on it, so it's very forgiving. Another reason why I like this microphone. It's very forgiving. But I just naturally, just instinctually, when I'm working with microphones, know how to modulate my P's and other plosives that make those sounds. So that's something that I'm sure there are videos on YouTube about that. I'm not sure, maybe. But proper mic technique is important. A lot of people scream into microphones that are this close, or, you know, will talk too quietly. It won't project, and they'll be over here, right? And then they'll turn up the level, and then they hear all this background noise, and it sounds terrible. So my point is this. The most important, the most vital thing in this list, the most vital part of the chain, the audio chain, in my opinion, when it comes to video, is you. You are the most important part of the audio chain, right? Like this stuff is just, this is, you know, media. It's mediating. It's amplifying you, right? We have the saying in broadcasting, garbage in, garbage out. So you want to have as good quality as possible material to work with when you're recording, when you're editing later, because it's so hard to fix later. And it's the same kind of thing with audio. You are the most important part of the chain. So what does that mean? Mic technique, right? That's another thing I just talked about. Energy, that's another thing that people aren't aware of when it comes to video in particular. Even audio, having a certain energy, projecting through I call it projecting through the technology. You have to push yourself through the wires, because in my mind, the technology, the chain, usually reduces your energy by 10%. So I speak on the microphone, I'm talking to you. If you were standing here with me, I wouldn't be this big, right? I'm just trained to know how to address a camera and a microphone. But that's important because the technology, you lose some of your energy in the technology. So you have to kind of compensate for that. And that's a lot of how you get good audio. It's your delivery, it's your performance. All these tools are just helping you, but it's up to you. You bring the raw materials. So you are the most important part in this chain. So just consider that. So, okay, Mike, well, what do? I talked about technique. You can, if you saw some of my videos about on-camera performance, I talk about warming up, having energy, that kind of thing. It's very important because you are, even though we're talking here, we're having a conversation, you are kind of performing a little bit because, again, you're pushing yourself through the wires. So you need a certain amount of energy. And so you should warm up and get your energy up when you're going to record video or do live streaming or podcasting or what have you. Because again, the most important thing is you, not the gear. The gear is there to help you, but without good stuff going into it, it can't do anything, honestly. And I tell people this because they worry about cameras and they worry about microphones and I need this and I need that. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't. Right? You don't need as much as you think you do. Sure, there's situations where you need extra gear because it's a unique situation. You have multiple people or there's a challenging environment or you're trying to do a certain kind of effect. But for the most part, the kind of videos we do here on YouTube, you don't need a lot. It's really on you. And so just keep that in mind as you sort of worry about gear and audio. Hope that made sense. I'm not trying to chastise people. I felt like I was chastising you there. But it's just my experience that you can, with these tips, these little basic ideas of the environment, the microphone placement, proper levels, and proper technique. And I guess number 5 is, and I'll put in number 5, hopefully. Well, it's going to go over here. Whatever. Oh, we're going to tab over. Number 5, you. Exclamation mark. So you are the most important part of the audio chain. And so when you're thinking about your audio, think about you and what you're bringing and your delivery first. And think of these tools as helping you. They're just aids. A microphone is just there to help you. Just to help you project and go get through the wires and go through the internet and what have you. But it's not going to do it for you. It's not going to make you sound better than you are. A lot of microphone people, you see reviews on microphones and, oh, wow, they sound so good on that microphone. Sure, you can do processing on a microphone and do all kinds of things, but I don't do that because for me, just personally, it's just not authentic as to your voice because your voice is very unique to you. And what makes you, you. It makes me, me. And so I don't want to process my voice into something else unless I'm going for a certain effect or something like that. But a microphone's not going to save you from bad environment, poor placement, improper levels, bad technique, or a lack of energy, enthusiasm, what have you. No microphone's going to save you from that. So you are the most important thing. Okay, I've beaten that enough. Enough, Mike. We get it. So let me just go back here to me. So yeah, so audio. What can I tell you? It's very important, but don't get too caught up with the gear. Pretty much every microphone that's out there now is good. Now, well, Mike, you have this SM7B. What are you talking about? Okay, let's talk about why I have this microphone. It's a fairly expensive microphone, but here's why I have it. Why don't you just keep using this one? Okay, let's talk about it. So, several reasons. Okay, I didn't get this microphone just because it was cool and everyone else was using it. There's certain specific reasons why I like this microphone and why it works for my situation. Number one, yes, sound quality is good, but there's lots of microphones out there that are cheaper that sound almost as good as this one. Who's going to tell the difference? Only like an audiophile, really. But the reason I like this microphone, and really it's a bit of a pain because it has to have that cloud lifter attached to make it sound okay. But I'll take the pain. They have a new version that came out that has the cloud lifter basically built in, but I've got this. What do I need that for? And I'm sure it's fine too. What I like about this is, I talked about it earlier, the insensitivity is ideal in a noisy environment, right? So I've got neighbors, I've got kids, luckily I'm not home right now. I've got, there's construction across the street, there's a new house being built, all kinds of stuff going on. And so I don't want to have to shut every door and, do everything to try and reduce that noise. So I want a microphone that's going to reject that. And that's what this does. The other thing about this microphone, very forgiving. This pop screen and everything. So I can talk loud, I can be animated, I can, do whatever. It's not popping, it's not distorting, it's taking it fine. That's another reason, because when I'm doing live stream and video, I don't want to have to worry about how I'm working with the microphone. I worry about that if I'm doing a voiceover or if I'm podcasting, that kind of thing. But if I'm doing video, I'm usually very animated, as you can tell. I don't want to have to worry about the microphone and how I'm addressing the microphone so much. As long as I'm sort of in the pocket, it's fine. So that's why I like this microphone too. The other thing why I like this microphone, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? I didn't hear anything. It has a built-in shock mount, shock absorber. So you can move it around. You don't hear that. I'm beating on the low profile arm right now. Do you hear that? You may hear it a little just low. But who's doing that? But anyway, the reason I like it is I can move it around and adjust it and you don't hear it. Other microphones sound really good. They don't have that. You hear everything. As soon as you move it, you hear, and it's just, is that a big deal? No, but it bothers me. So I like to be able to adjust the mic if I'm, pushing buttons and doing stuff and not have you hear it or me hear it. So these are the reasons. So my point is, there's a method to my madness as to why I have this microphone. And so you have to think with your gear, what are you trying to do? If you're not doing something like this, you don't need this. If you're just sitting doing a voiceover and it's controlled, you don't need this kind of stuff, right? You can get away with this just fine. This works brilliantly. And it even comes with a pop screen on it, which is excellent. So think about your use case before you go out and start getting gear. Very important, because you can just become overwhelmed with the gear and all the choices. So you have to think about your use case. All right. What else? What else do we talk about audio? Let's see. Dr. Durant's levels are where I struggle the most. I come from the theater, as do I. So I'm always playing to the back of the room. Yes, I always get red peaks. Yeah, so I'm also, as implied from my Degrassi thing, I've also been a professional actor for 20 years, both on the screen and the stage. So I understand. I've done like 2 and 3-handers with no microphone, no assistance, 200, 300 people in the theater and having to throw it right to the back all the time, every night. So I get it. So you just have to learn how to modulate your projection. You got to think of it's kind of the difference between theater and screen performing, screen acting. Theater is usually, today they have microphones and they project because they're in huge houses and they have to sing and they don't want to have to, kill their voices night after night. So they have that assistance with the microphone. But old school traditional, you have no mic, you're just projecting right out there. So you're throwing it out there and you're really hitting your consonants and your T's and your everything, so that, especially if you're doing Shakespeare or anything like that, you're really You're really putting it out there. On screen acting, it's totally opposite because you have a camera and a microphone. And it's almost like the camera is like a microscope. It's seeing everything. And the microphone is the same kind of thing. It's like a bug. It's picking up everything. So you have to be conscious of that when you're performing or you're doing your delivery for video. We're using a camera and a microphone. You have to modulate your performance and bring it down. And I know it's difficult because you think, well, if I modulate my level, then I won't have the same dynamic and energy. And you sort of have to learn how to, the dynamic and energy doesn't come from volume. It comes from the dynamic in your emotion and how you're playing. This is a whole other discussion. But in terms of, if you're distorting a lot, you have to bring down the level, and you just have to learn how to bring your level down, your loudness down, while still keeping that energy and staying dynamic. It's tricky, especially if all you've done is theater. It's tricky to do. It's tricky. Now to go see those old Degrassi episodes. Yeah, back when I had almost like a little fro. It was crazy for most of the seasons. Okay. My levels definitely go up and down when I'm talking. Yeah, they do. Everybody's levels go up and down as long as they stay in a certain range. And it's practice. So much of it is practice. Anything, doing on camera, doing on a microphone. You practice. You get to feel, you record, you look at your levels and go, oh, okay, well, that was low or too high. And I tell people to practice just recording themselves and watching themselves back, even though people don't like watching themselves. You're listening to themselves, you get used to it, because if you're making YouTube videos and you're making a go of it here, you're going to have to do that a lot. It's okay. But record and listen and watch back, and you'll start to get a feel. You'll start to connect what you're putting out with what the camera and the microphone is picking up. And you'll know, and you'll get to know that instinctually, and it'll get better, right? But it takes practice. I do this practice. 20 some odd years of doing this. Practice. When I started, I was bad, but I practiced. Live streams that I do on Sundays, I use a Rode Wireless Go 2. Yeah. If people can hear, it's fine. That's another issue I want to talk about. It's hard to think, but it's hard to believe. It's counterintuitive, but your audio can be too good, especially for video. What do I mean? How can it be too good, Mike? So audio for video, like I said off the top of this stream, is different than just audio by itself. Audio for video, the audio is important, but it's fitting in with the video, with the entire experience. If the audio is really present, like for example, if you're watching somebody and say they're at, I don't know, a desk or a table, or maybe they're cooking something, and the audio is so intimate and close as they make those biscuits, that's kind of weird. It's like, that doesn't fit, right? That doesn't fit. And you'll talk to recordists, professional audio recordists, and you watch them, especially when they have the boom, the pole with the mic on it. They don't drop that thing right in close to people, because they're aware of the shot. Like, how big is the shot? Like, what is the context of what we're doing here? And they will adjust where they put the microphone to get to place the sound properly with the picture. That's one of those dark art things I learned from them. So audio can be too good and it doesn't fit, right? It's all about the context. Obviously, you don't want very distant audio, but if it's a shot of you far away and you're trying to show your distance and how far away, and all of a sudden you're like 200 yards away and we're hearing you like this, that's weird too, right? We expect to hear some distance, right? So think about that in terms of your audio, right? The placement of it, the context of it. It's one of those kind of secret sauce skills I'm just giving to you about audio, is placement, like placement in the context of the shot. So just keep that in mind. Your audio doesn't have to be pristine. It just has to be clear, and it has to be present so that it's cutting through everything else and people are picking up the information. That's it. I know people really, it needs to be pristine and I need to put all this processing and I want it to, I mean, go for it if you want to. If that's what you want to do, you can do anything you want to. But I'm just saying you don't have to do that. And sometimes it's counterproductive. If stuff doesn't fit, it becomes distracting, no matter how slick it is. If it doesn't seem in place, your brain's like, something's not right, and you're distracted and you're taken out of the experience. So just keep that in mind. Wow. 8 hours. 8-hour stream? Are you on Twitch, Dave? Or are you on YouTube? Wow. All right. Here's a question. Do you use EQ to enhance various frequencies? No. I could, and people do. I don't use EQ. For example, in the Rodecaster Pro here, the only thing I have in terms of processing is the compressor. Okay, so a compressor, what's a compressor, Mike? Basically what a compressor does is it kind of evens out your levels. It kind of brings up the low levels when you're talking and brings down the higher levels when you're talking, kind of compresses them to be sort of consistent. That's it. That's all I use. And it's very light, very lightly done. But I don't use any other EQ, really. Because, EQ, you can start going down a rabbit hole with that. And I've done that. To the point where you're like, what do I want this to sound like again? What my voice, I don't know anymore. And then, so it's easy to get caught up with that stuff. I mean, EQ is great for certain voices and for certain situations, I think. Again, it's the context, right? You would have a lot of people will use a different EQ for something like a podcast where you're just listening versus a video, right? Because it's a different situation. So for the podcast, you're just listening. You don't have any distraction. You're just hearing sound. With a video, you're watching, and there may be other sounds. So you want the voice to cut through. So you want to maybe EQ it so it cuts through more. But that's a whole other discussion, a very advanced discussion. And for the most part, like for example, when I do my tutorials, I don't use any EQ. That's just straight the mic into the camera, into the computer, and it works fine. It works fine. The SM7B with a good stand is around $500. Do you think it's worth this investment for a small YouTube channel, or is it worth just learning to use the Focusrite Scarlett mic I already have? Yeah, use the mic that you have already. See, okay, so my question would be, if you came to me and said, Mike, should I get the SM7B with a stand and so on? I would ask you why. What is it about your current setup that's not working for you, really? Right? Because this whole pursuit, again, be careful of the pursuit of pristine audio quality, because that you become obsessed with it. and you trust me, you'll become obsessed. And then you'll kind of lose focus on the other aspects of making good videos. So if your current setup is working fine for what you're doing, there's really no need, right? But if you have an issue like the microphones, the noise, or my environment's different and, I'm having problems, it's picking up everything, or, again, being strategic about what your purposes are, what the goals are, what the environment is, where you want the microphone placed, all the things I went through in the list. Think about that stuff first. And then think, well, do I need a better microphone? Because sound quality, honestly, you can, like I said, you can go down a rabbit hole with that. And pretty much all the microphones on the market now, I mean, except for some very, very inexpensive ones, sound fine. So particularly for video, again, for video, right? We're talking about audio for video, different than if you're doing a podcast. It's a different situation. It's different context. So I don't know. I would have to see, Shamba, what you're doing with your video and what your concerns are. But don't go, well, that person's using it, I'm going to use it. I mean, fine, do what you want to, but you may not need to, right? There's a difference between Do I need to or do I want to? Two different things. And obviously you do what you want to do, but I'm just saying, from my perspective, a lot of stuff is not required. It's not required. Honestly, I said before, the most important thing is you. And I tell people, before you start thinking about microphones and devices and interfaces, what's happening with you and your delivery and your presence and how you are communicating through the camera and on the microphone. You're the most important part of the chain. This is great info because most of us, including mostly myself, kept breathing weird sounds during live streams and even recordings. Very odd. Yeah, well, that's another thing too. So I did professional narration for a while. That's a different thing. You really have to control your breath, your mouth sounds, all those saliva smacking sounds and stuff like that. You have to control. But obviously they take it out in post because who can do all of that? But when it comes to like a live stream or what we're doing, people expect you to breathe. It's okay to breathe. It's okay to take a breath. That's natural, right? Again, it's more important that you're communicating and being dynamic and having energy and connecting than that stuff. I mean, you see me in these streams, I'm like, doing all kinds of weird stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't do that if I was doing a professional narration gig. I wouldn't be going, I wouldn't. But this is different, right? It's the context. Again, the context is so important. So, I mean, don't sweat it. There are things you can do to help with like breathing and things like that. I know one of the exercises I remember back in the day was using a candle in front of your mouth to control your breath. All these different sort of hacks and things like that you can use, but you don't want to be so concerned about that and then you're forgetting what you're talking about. And again, you're not connecting with your audience, particularly on a live stream. Like my live streams are different, if you've watched my stuff, are different from my tutorials. My tutorials are engineered because they're engineered to deliver this content to you as efficiently as possible so you can get it and, get what you need and move on. A live stream is different in my mind. It's more conversational. It's more authentic. It's okay to, have a lip smack or something happen. That's just my philosophy though. But yeah, don't sweat it. Practice. Thanks for mentioning energy delivery. So critical. Yeah, it really is. And again, it goes down to practice. And if you haven't done it, it'll feel weird. You'll feel like I feel like I'm too big, right? You'll feel that way. But once you start, again, practicing, not just practice like in the mirror, practice with a camera and a microphone and record and review, because it's a different thing. You will see you come across differently on the camera and the microphone. And the key to this kind of thing is to connect this with what's going there and looking at how I change and how it comes across. And then you gauge it and then you feel it and then you don't have to think about it anymore. And that comes through practice. It really does. I film and record on my iPhone. Is there a way to watch sound levels on iPhone while filming? There are some apps you can use depending on the microphone that you're using for your iPhone. I know Rode has an app. I think it's called the Rode Reporter. It's in the App Store, and it has a level meter and stuff that you can use to watch your levels. Yeah, and I think there's some other apps out there. Depends on what you're using as a microphone. But you may want to consider if you're using an iPhone and you're doing a lot of this kind of stuff, you may want to consider actually using an interface that has meters on it that can connect to the phone and connecting it to the phone. So you can really monitor your levels and it's there. Also, I don't know what external microphone, if you're using an external microphone for your iPhone, if you're just using the iPhone microphone, yeah, that's tricky to try to control the levels for that. So let me just talk briefly about that. If you're just using your phone. So the iPhone has like an automatic, it's called AGC, automatic gain control. So what it will do is it'll sit there and listen to the level. And if it thinks the level's quiet, it'll boost it up. And if it's loud, it'll take it down. And so it does this modulating constantly, automatic gain control, trying to keep it at a certain level. So what ends up happening with automatic gain control is when you're quiet, it boosts the level and you hear a lot of noise, a lot of hiss as it's boosting it up. And then when you go loud, it can't catch up and you distort and then it brings it down. You don't want to have that kind of automatic gain control. I don't like it. I turn it off. I have it on, it's on some of my cameras. Turn it off. I like to manually control the levels so I know what's happening. But that's what's happening in an iPhone. So if you use an app, an external app, audio app that can control the levels manually, that's probably your best bet. Even if you're just using the built-in microphone in the iPhone, use an audio app to control the levels. Because that automatic gain control is just up and down, up and down, up and down, and it can't. It'll bring in noise, and then it can't catch you when you get too loud. It's just not fast enough. This has been extremely helpful. Lots of things to tweak on my end to hopefully up the audio game. Good. Yeah, no, definitely up the audio game. It's so important. You know what? Good audio actually makes videos seem better. Have you ever seen a video, and I did this experiment, I did a video with a webcam, just webcam footage, as webcam. I think it was like the C920, that old webcam. Decent picture, for most things. And you look at it and you listen to it with the built-in microphone, and it's like, oh, this is kind of crappy. Add a quality microphone to that, and you will psychologically think it's better. That video seems better. It seems to look better. It seems better quality. The video isn't any better. It's the audio that makes it seem like it's better. That's why audio is so important. Yes. Tom Buck does nice mic reviews and Think Media. Yeah, there's lots of people. Podcastage is another. He does all microphone, like extensive microphone reviews. Yeah, so check out those channels. They're excellent. I watch them. They're really good. Podcastage is one of my favorites. He does really good extensive mic reviews. Podcast AGE, Podcastage. Barely Anything. Is that the SM7? Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you mean. This is the SM7B, yes. I got a lot of value from this video. It's the first live video I've ever watched on YouTube. Really? And you chose me? Oh, I'm flattered. Thank you so much. Enjoy the format in your presentation. Have a good day. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I teach English as a second language, so the pronunciation of P's, Z's, or Z's, as we say here in Canada, S's, etc., plus projecting to the back of the room, all create challenges using the mic. Yeah, hence my animations and loudness. So, in that kind of situation, you probably want to be using a lavalier mic that sits here, because you're not directly going into it. So you don't have to worry about, overmodulation and the plosives hitting it. And usually a lavalier mic has a very sort of broad pickup pattern. I didn't go into pickup patterns, but it's omnidirectional, meaning it picks up sound from all around, where this one, for example, is what you call a cardioid. So it only picks up from in front and a little bit from the side. Same as this one. Picks up from the front and from the side. The one I showed you, the shotgun mic, on the other hand, this one, is what you call a hypercardioid. So it's only picking up from what's in front of it. There it is. It's only picking up what's directly in front of it, more or less, right? But a lavalier picks up all around, which is good because you don't have to worry about plosives and hitting it too hard, but it'll pick up your it'll pick you up. So you may want to consider that if you have to, project. Because you can also, where you place it, if you place it a little close, you can place it a little farther down so that it's not, if you're going to be loud. So that's something to consider. I'm catching up in the chat here. We are in the Q&A portion. Wow, almost forgot my like. Remember yours? Is that meant for me, or are you talking to somebody else in the chat? Sorry about that. Recently went back to live streams, but trying to keep it between half an hour and 1 hour episodes, all in Spanish, my main language. Question, I'm very nasal. Any tips to work with my nasal voice? Okay, so yes. We are now in the announcing clinic portion. So if you have a very nasally voice, if it's all up here, what you want to learn how to do is get your sounds to your lips. So you have to learn how to get it from here to here. So one thing you can do are different exercises. It's hard to sort of do through this format. It's easier in person. But what you want to do is you want to try to move your sound from here to the front. Because a lot of people, when we speak, our sound is at the back. It's in our throats, or it's in our nasal passages. That's just sort of, if you're not akin to public speaking or doing that kind of stuff, that's naturally our voices sit in our throats and in our nasal passages. Because when we're talking to people, we're 6 inches away, or not 6 inches, a couple feet away. So you have to learn, and I learned this through theater, you have to learn how to get your voice from your throat to your lips, to your teeth. That's where and you almost have to think of it consciously, of your voice kind of coming out of your lips rather than inside your nose. So doing different exercises like trills, like lip stuff like that will help you get it to the front. But think about that. But think about it mentally, moving your voice to the front, to your teeth helps. As opposed to when you're singing, you try to move your voice through the top of your head. That's a different thing. All right. Yep, I have used till recent of SL40X XLR mic. It works good, not perfect, but hey, can't complain. Yeah, what's perfect? I don't know. What is that? What is perfect? I don't know what perfect. No, honestly, I don't know what perfect is. Right? What's perfect? I'm not trying to beat up on you, senor. It's just that, perfect is what? It's what's perfect? I think when it comes to video creation, in my experience, the number one goal you're going for, other than, making sure your message is clear, is not perfect. It's to reduce as much as possible the distractions from your message coming across clearly. Right? That's the goal. And so that involves certain things. But perfect, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. And every video experience is different, right? A perfect live stream is different from a perfect upload. There's so many factors, right? At the end of the day, and if you're trying to go for perfect, good luck. At the end of the day, it's what is the goal of this video? Is it to be clear and to reduce the distractions so the message comes across? Because at the end of the day, that's what's important, is the message of your video. All this other stuff is just a vehicle, right? If the message is weak, no vehicle is going to help it, right? So I always tell people, concentrate on your message first, because it's easy to get overwhelmed with the gear and the tech. Concentrate on your message and think of these as tools to help you share your message. It's live. Oh, on YouTube. Yeah, okay. Wow. I should check that out. What time? Dave's Vintage Apple. What time is your stream on? Let me know. Put it in the chat. I'd be interested to see it. Oh, yeah. Laugh at yourself. Yeah, of course. On live. It's live. It's a conversation. Authenticity is the best thing. Thank you. Sorry, that was my question, and this is the first time in your live stream. Oh, well, thank you for being here. A lot of first timers. That's excellent. I appreciate it. Extremely helpful. You are awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Sundays, 8 a.m. PST. All right. All right. Okay, so yeah, we're in the Q&A portion now. Usually I transition to it, but I've said everything I've needed to say about audio. If you have any questions about it, and yeah, just put them in the chat. Hopefully it was clear what I went through. I hope you weren't expecting like a play-by-play review of different microphones, because that's not, for me, that's not what I do. Excuse me. That's not what I went to do. I wanted to sort of conceptually talk about good audio for video, and apply those principles. And those principles work with any kind of microphone or device or whatever you're using. When using a Mac laptop for a Zoom filming, when wearing glasses, I get that purple rectangle reflection from the screen. What can we do for that? Oh, in your glasses? All right, so glasses, this is not microphones, but I'll answer. So reflection in glasses is angle. It's all about the angle. It's like lights. If you don't want the lights to reflect in your glasses, which is terrible, you need to angle the lights differently or angle yourself differently, because it's just angles. So you want to try and angle the screen differently, like maybe bend it more towards you so you're not getting the reflection in your glasses. That's it really, aside from not wearing glasses. But it's all angling, just angling things when it comes to that. That's why when people doing interviews with people with glasses, you kind of have to angle the lights. A lot of time you got to bring them a little higher so that the reflection reflects away, not in the glasses. Not into the camera from the glasses, I should say. It's still going into the glasses, but you don't want to come into the camera. That's that trick. That's that trick. All right. Any other questions about audio for video? I really enjoy audio. It's so powerful. And it's such a powerful tool with video. And to make it work with video is tricky, because sometimes it doesn't work if you don't do it right. And then the whole experience doesn't work. That's the thing when I talk about good audio for video. It's a different discipline, because you're working with two different sort of formats. And to make them work together takes more thinking than just one by itself. Right? You have to make them complement each other. Great stream, Michael. Thank you so much, Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. I will check out your stream. I'm curious to see what vintage tech you have going. This was great, helpful. Glad to hear practicing matters. Yes, it does matter with everything, right? I think there's this misconception that because the tools, microphones, the cameras and stuff, are so much more accessible now than they were back when I started. And, the prices have come down and they're just so ubiquitous. There's this sort of assumption that it's going to automatically make you good, right? It's because it's accessible. Because it's so accessible doesn't mean that it's going to make good content, right? You still have to work with the tools. They're not going to do it for you. The tools aren't going to make it happen. I mean, AI is a whole other discussion. Maybe we'll do a stream on that, talk about AI. But, the tools don't automatically make you good. And I think because they're so accessible, people think that's what's going to happen. You still have to practice. You still have to work with it. You still have to work with the tools, get to know them. Especially with video, get to know how you come across in video, because that's the thing. When people start video, I've worked with clients who just want to, they want to start video, and it's almost like they're horrified when you say, okay, we're going to do a recording. Let's do a little, talk off the top of your head for like a minute or two. We'll just record it and we'll have a look. Okay. And we record it and then we play it back, and their instant reaction is, oh my gosh, is that what I look like? Is that what I sound like? And then it's like they're freaking out. And it's like, yes, that's what you look like. And that's what you sound like through the camera. And that's all that matters, unless, you're doing everything in person. So you have to learn, you have to practice and get to know what I say, get to know your camera self, because it's different than the in-person real you. It's slightly different because of the technology, the mediation of the technology. So the sooner you get used to the camera and microphone you, the better. The better. And that comes through practice and repetition. And then you won't care. You'll watch yourself. I mean, I sat in edit suites for decades watching myself over and over and back and forth as, editing and the editor's editing and seeing crazy, pausing on crazy facial expressions and stuff like that. You just get used to it. You got to get used to it. You got to move through it in order to sort of grow as a creator. So yeah, practice, repetition, very important. Very important. What camera are you using, please? Sorry, I know we're talking about audio. Okay, so yeah, no problem. This is a, let me go to my other shot. Let me go to my overhead cam shot here. So that right there is the camera. That is a Sony Alpha 6100. It's a few years old. It's fine. On it is a Sigma 16 millimeter 1.4 lens. Very popular lens for live streaming. Wide angle lens. I've had the 6100 for a few years. Yeah, it works fine. It's good. Yeah. I haven't upgraded to any of the newer ones. This is fine. I mean, and I'm streaming in 1080p, not 4K, even though the 6100 does 4K. But no one's really streaming in 4K. That's just too much of a load for everybody, including YouTube, the YouTube servers. So yeah, that's the Alpha 6100. Great camera, great picture quality, works nicely, HDMI connecting to the computer and stuff. And yeah, it's good. It's good. Nothing too fancy. But it's, it's a good mirrorless camera. Had it for a few years. All right. Any more questions before I wrap this up? Let me just quickly review back over to the text edit. So good audio for video. Environment, control it as much as you can. Sometimes you can't, but I showed you the acoustic tiles just to beat down reflections. That's really the big one. Other than noise, obviously, right? You don't want to put your studio beside the boiler room or something if you can help it. Microphone placement. Again, getting the microphone as close to the sound source as possible within the context of what you're trying to do, right? In shot versus out of shot. Depends on your context, right? And what's important. Proper levels, very important. Setting proper levels. Do test recordings. I always do a test recording before everything. Before I record my tutorials, even when I'm doing like this, I'm doing a test recording to get my levels right so that I don't come on too quiet, too loud. So always do a test recording and test your levels and record at the level is very important. Record at the level that you're going to actually deliver. Don't be quiet. It's better actually to be louder in your test than too quiet. Because again, it's better to be a little quieter on the level than too hot, because you can always boost it up, but you cannot bring it back once it gets into the crispy red zone. Trust me, you can't. Proper mic technique. Don't be eating the microphone. Don't be too far from the microphone. Just, and try not to be breathing into it and popping into it and stuff like that. A lot of times if you notice me, I'm not speaking right into the mic. I'm speaking kind of across it. That's another technique if you're working closely with microphones is to speak across them. So yeah. And then finally, you are the most important. You are the most important part of the audio chain. All this stuff is just here to pick you up, to help you, to bring you through. But if you're coming to it with, not great energy, not great articulation, this is not going to help you, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So do work on your delivery and practice. as I said, practice. Very important, practice. Nobody wants to practice. You know how many test recordings I have on my hard drives of just practicing? Like if I do a new setup, new lighting setup, or a new microphone or a new camera, anything new, I test. I'm constantly testing. And I record. I don't just go, okay, that looks good, and move on. It's like, no. Any new piece of gear I get in the chain, I test record. Very important, because that's the only way to know if things are going to work. So I have dozens and dozens of test recordings on my hard drives. These are not for public consumption. I don't even go back to them a lot of time. It's just to practice with the new gear, make sure what I'm going for is what I'm getting. So practice. It's okay. It's okay to practice. Mike, can I just report that I managed to complete detangling my giant iMovie library using your video? This huge mistake will destroy your iMovie experience. Thank you very much. Oh, you're welcome. That was a big one. People really enjoyed that one. That was very useful. I know, it's very useful. It's very useful. I had somebody comment that they were this close to buying a new Mac because iMovie was running so slow, and they thought it was their Mac that was running slow and was old. And then they saw my video, thank goodness, and realized, oh no, it's my iMovie library is huge. And so they took, they did what I showed them, and they're like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm glad it was so useful. Your video on editing a vertical video in iMovie was very helpful. Thank you for the tips. I'm a new fan. Excellent. Good. I'm glad it was helpful. Yes. Congrats on the detangle. Excellent. Yeah, that's, it's one of those things. And, where do you learn about that? It's kind of, it's because I was in the same situation. This is running really slow. And then I put 2 and 2 together, and it's like, wait a second, this is a package file. Everything's in here. Well, no wonder. And you look at the size of it, 50 gigs. Well, no wonder this thing is coughing and spitting up. So, I, separating out the libraries and all that kind of stuff really helped. Yeah. Okay. So if that's it, I'm gonna wrap this up, and I hope this was useful to you for the video. Next week, next stream. Thanks for the info, Michael. Have a great rest of your day. You too, Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. I appreciate it. So next stream topic, I usually kind of figure it out. I look at the comments and see what people are talking about, and that's how I come up with the topics, because hopefully these topics are more useful to you because they're coming from you. So I forgot last week to put another post in, but I'll do it right after this. If you have any topic ideas for the next stream or anything you want to talk about, you can let me know. Lots of great info. Once again, love the streams. Thank you so much, the Dusty Dutchman. Thank you for being here, becoming such a regular to the streams. I appreciate it. All right. Well, that is it for me. This has been a good stream. A lot of good information. I kind of went on and on, as I tend to do. Fantastic stream. Thanks for taking the time. You are welcome, Shamba. And thank you for your question and comments about audio. Kind of spurred this whole thing. Thanks so much for your expertise. Take care and have all a wonderful weekend. You too, senor. Natalia, thank you so much for being here. Gabby, thank you for the audio tips. Looking forward to next week. We have a wonderful rest of the week. You two have a wonderful rest of the week. And yes, Dr. Durant's Sanctum. Great stream. I visit your channel often. Thanks. Great. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for taking the time. I know there's lots of choices out there on YouTube. So thank you for making me one of your choices. All right, folks. Until next week, I thank you for your time and attention. And we'll talk about some more interesting stuff in the next episode of Mac Video Magic Live. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.